Hello, viewers. It's Brian J.T. Watts here with another episode of Come Together. Today's episode is an interview I did with Mr. Edward Williams III. This guy is just a man of all talents. He has done so much for his community. I went to church with him back in Nashville, met him when he was a youngster, and he's just grown into a great guy, very great father, a great minister, and I'll let him tell you all about it. So after the intro, we'll be talking to Edward Williams III, also known as Trey, also known as Andale. We'll talk to him right now. Take it easy. This is the greatest game of telephone that has ever been played. Someone said the black man doesn't raise his kids or care for his family, and that message is still being told to everyone today. They even have us saying,
we are not a monolith. We have various opinions and thoughts. We are much more than what we are portrayed to be by the media.
Even when we are the victims of injustice, we are still portrayed as the perpetrators. When it comes to the black man, there is an intentional plan to discredit the past, arrest the present, and destroy the future.
Something must be done, but nothing will work until we come together. Hey viewers, how you doing today? We are here today with a friend of mine, Edward Williams III.
Oh, wow.
I want to present him to all of y'all. I'm gonna let him go ahead and tell you about himself, what he's doing. He's done a lot of stuff. I know he's been involved in ministry on different levels, education. He's a dad, a husband, so many different things. I'm gonna let him introduce you to himself and let you know what he's doing right now.
Oh, man, that's a lot. Thank you, brother. So yes, man. So how's everybody doing out there, man? I am Trey. Everybody just call me Trey. Andale. Man, right now I'm living out here in California. Met Watts, man, a long time ago back in Nashville. And he's known me since I was a teeny bopper, waiting on the Peach Fuzz to come in. And yeah, man. So I've been blessed to do a lot of different things. And of course I came up as an artist, as a rapper. Started out secular rapper, and was doing a lot with that. And then I transitioned over into Christian hip hop after a run in with the authorities. And man, that kind of set the trajectory of my life for the next few years to where I was able to put out, singles and projects and travel with a group called 7 Day Soldiers out of Riverside, my stomping ground, and then as a solo artist. And so I did that for a few years, and then still doing that, still creating and still putting out music and material. But I did that, and then from there, I finished up my degree, got a degree in healthcare administration from Tennessee State University, and minored in business, and say healthcare administration was my major. So worked in the medical field as an administrator, which is amazing, which is what I do now out here in California. So I'm a clinic manager out here for a small clinic out here. So yeah, man, it's been a pastor. A pastor for 2 years in Jolton, Tennessee. I was a lay pastor out there. Man, that was an incredible experience. And so now I'm mainly focused on just trying to be a good dad, be a good husband. Like I said, I still record, still put out material. And just left the gym, man. Try not to get that dad bod, AKA the father figure, So we trying to keep it right. It'll get away from you fast. So, so I'm trying to.
I'm trying not to testify over here, so I feel you.
So yeah, man. Married. I've been married to my wife, my brides. We met in '98, and we've been together ever since. And I got 2 kids, well, teenagers now, 15 and 13. And yeah, man, I am overblessed. for sure.
That sounds good. That sounds good. And listen, I'm telling you, it's good to hear Black men talk about their family and their wives and all of that, because for some reason we're talked about like we don't do these things.
Right.
Like we don't treasure these things, or we don't even have an interest in them. And I think that a lot of what this show was built around was those types of talk. I don't know if you've heard the intro before, but there's a lot that people say about us, and it seems like they're only saying about us, about Black men. And these things aren't true, but they're said so much that even we consider them to be true. We preach from the pulpit that the lack of Black fathers is responsible for the degradation of society, and there's more Black men in jail than are in college, and Black men don't love their wives, and they don't take care of their kids, and they don't this and they don't that. And the truth is that the statistics show that that's not the case,
Right.
And so I'm seeing a lot that I saw before in education, that I'm seeing in different industries, of how we're being treated and how things are being done to sort of put us in that light. You were an artist for a while. As Andale, a Christian rapper, I mean, you did a lot of things in probably part of the early part of Christian hip hop, not when Christian hip hop was, as mainstream as it is now,
Right.
where
Right.
people just know the people's names and everything. You were out there when you had to probably convince churches to say, "Could I do this in your church?" So that's back when it was hard.
Right.
You had to really grind to get in there. Did you ever?
You were out there with me, man. You rode with me for a while, man.
And that's why I know. Yeah, I mean, I had to be convinced.
Right. Right.
Being from the South Bronx and being a hip hop head at the time was like, and even though I'm a Christian and hip hop, yeah, we good. But because there weren't a lot of people doing it well.
Absolutely.
And after I saw people doing it well, then I was like, okay, well then yeah, I can rock with that. But what did you see as far as being? Because I know there were probably people of all races and everything that you ran into. Did you ever see anything in music that made you feel like this happens just to us as Black men, or did you feel like you had to stand or be a certain way because you were Black, or that people assumed certain things about you as an artist like that when you're out there?
No, I can't say that I did, man. That's one of the beautiful things about music, man, is in many ways music is an equalizer.
Right.
You have racists who will sing the words and lyrics and almost even fan out to Black artists, and they will almost forget that they are racially biased because they're so impacted by the music,
Right.
or they're so infatuated with the fame and the notoriety. And it's the same, not just in music, but a lot of times music, but it's also just in general. You could be a fan of someone for being a brilliant actor or any genre, right? Somebody that you look up to, and you almost forget that they're a race that you sort of look down upon because they impact you so much. So when I was out there doing shows and performing, man, it was never just Black people, it was white people, it was Asians, and they never made me feel really any there was never like a palpable racism there, you know what I mean? Which I can appreciate. But I know it exists, and I know that that there are certain stereotypes and expectations that are placed on Black artists, but I can't honestly say that I experienced like sort of this just obvious situation, which is great, but I know it's sort of, it's always the undercurrent,
Well, being in the genre that you were in, it's a Black genre. I mean,
right.
It's hip hop,
Right.
whether it's Christian or not.
Right.
So that was sort of expected. And also, one thing that I try to explain to people is, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, there's no real racism in music. White people come out to our concerts just like black people. In fact, more white people come out to our concerts than black people. And I'm like, well, even slave owners enjoyed the entertainment that the Negroes had. You know what I'm saying? That's always been the case. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
100%. Yes. And like I said, I mean, it exists. It just exists in a much more sort of what's the word I'm looking for? But it's not as conspicuous, And so, for instance, I do remember when I would do music for like I want to say like the CCM side or anything a white production company or a white studio, or it was generally ran by white people, then the content that they would ask from me would definitely be whitewashed. It would not be the 808 heavy Atlanta sound or Deep South. It would definitely be made by someone who sounded like they just started making music, or they didn't really have the pulse on what was really popping. It was what they thought was hip hop. It was what they thought we liked, And so I clearly remember that, and that music is very, very different. And I still see that in some of the things that I'm doing now, where they do want a certain sound, and it's their idea of what the urban folks like, and it's not right.
It's weird because there's a lot I think that we end up missing out on, and it's not just I mean, a lot of people can attribute it to racism, which I think is part of it, but also just the fact that most times the people who become artists, and I can say most times because I see in a lot of it, they're hunted down by people. They might come to your church or the urban areas, to the ghettos, and find these talented kids or these talented rappers and singers and even sports stars and actors, and put them on, discover them. And usually they end up with contracts and things that are nowhere near what they should be, that don't recognize their talent, that don't give them the financial gain that they should probably get, while somebody else is just getting rich off of them. And being in a city like Nashville, the music city, that's probably happening a lot, and I think that a lot of people probably have been taken. And even big stars. You had big stars that were in Nashville when we were there, like Toni Braxton. I mean, and she was taken by some of her own, But if you don't read the contracts, there are people who will make sure, if you're poor, money is good to you, even though it's not what you're worth. You know what I'm saying? And so it's
unfortunate, man, but that's what this whole debate around critical race theory and everything, man. It's like, dude, racism is pervasive throughout pretty much every aspect and every industry of life, And so, in music, in education, it doesn't matter, hospitality. There is this glass ceiling, right? And at the very top. So take for instance in music, we're as artists, typically we're allowed to make the music, to be the talent, like you said with the slave master illustration. We're allowed to do those things, but if we were ever to seek the position of authority, to seek the position of decision maker, we're rarely in those positions. You really see it in sports. Rarely are we head coaches, rarely are we GMs, rarely are we president operations, things like that, where you're typically just the talent. And if you haven't educated yourself or taken the reins on your career and been stubborn about your trajectory, and like you said, we're happy to get some money because we are happy. Look at where we come from. So you show somebody a $50,000 check, then it's like, what do I sign? So I don't have anything right now. You know what I mean? Right. I think it's getting better. I do believe that it's getting better, but we have to recognize our worth. That was something I struggled with as an artist. I just wanted to get in. I wanted to get in, and I didn't really appreciate the talent the way that I should have, the way I do now, and understand my value. Because when you understand your value, you just don't put up with certain things. You don't say yes to certain things. You don't sort of whore yourself out because you just want to be out there. But you're a brand, and people will pay you for your brand. But you got to see yourself as that first.
There you go. That's right. I mean, it's it's a lot. You mentioned critical race theory. I want to know what you feel about that. First of all, I think the name is insane. Okay, so the fact that it was named that and people started to talk about it, I was incensed. Being an educator for over 20 years now, I was like, wait, what? What is? First of all, what's critical about it? And what do you mean theory? And I don't think a lot of people are understanding that when something is a theory, that means it's not true, or it hasn't been proven.
Correct.
So, like there's a theory of evolution. So people are like, okay, it's not a law, so it's just a theory, And it's really been bothersome to me. So give me your rundown on that. What are you really thinking is going on as far as that's concerned?
I understand why it's a sensitive subject for non-African Americans, because ultimately what it is doing is it's calling everybody to the mat and saying, look, we have racism in every sector of society, and it's not being taught. It's being swept under the rug in most cases, especially when it comes to students, when it comes to school and our history books. The way that we whitewash it, the way that we we don't discuss at length, or even, we don't even really paint the picture of what slavery was like for a slave. We sort of romanticize our forefathers, and we diminish the contributions of many people just because they were people of color. And to teach that and to celebrate blackness is offensive, and it's terrifying, and for there to even be resistance is the issue within itself. There's an issue within that of in itself, because it's an indictment, man, against white people. And like I said, I mean, we could point to you. You'd be hard pressed to point to any sector where racism doesn't play a factor. And I agree with you. It's not a theory. It's a fact. It is a fact. It is a fact.
Mean, it's rough for me as an educator and as a black man to hear things like this that cannot be taught in school. When we looked over history books and we realized that every president that's mentioned is mentioned in a good light in the history book. There's slavery, but there are no slave mongers. There's nobody who was going after slaves. There's nobody who was doing anything bad to them. They were just happened to be slavery. Like, okay, this happened. Slavery is made to be something good for the blacks. It's we got them out of that wild Africa place and brought them over here, and look how well they're doing. Also, it made it seem like, and this is the part that gets me the worst, I'm gonna tell you. We went and got slaves from Africa. That statement alone is insanely offensive, because they were not slaves. They were just people. You made them slaves when you got here, and so you make them like they were already slaves. We just went and got them from somewhere else. Like you went to Home Depot and picked up a slave, and it's crazy, and it's very demeaning. And the problem is that in the United States, we have been more educated probably than we ever were before, because everything is international now. It's real easy to find out what's going on in other countries. It's real easy to find out that Africa is not this desolate place where nothing's going on. It's easy to realize that the cradle of civilization was over there, that there's a lot of business and industry and everything going on all over the world. And so now it's even more important to push this narrative that America is still the greatest and strongest and richest country in the world. And weird to hear that when you're hearing that China owns your debt. How does somebody own your debt if you're the most popular, the most powerful in the world? It's a lot of things that don't make sense. And I think that it's a real push now to just erase the history and make it whatever you want it, when there are a whole bunch of us alive who know what it was. And so it's hurtful for us, but I think that they have a full narrative that we don't know anything about. And they have to have something to replace this, because there's no way they're going to have to erase all the history books. We've been made to feel like Martin Luther King was our savior, Martin Luther King Jr., and not to say anything bad about him, but Black people have never picked or voted for a leader of Black people. Okay, so even when Martin Luther King was doing his thing, there were people who disagreed with him. There were people who were like, well, no, we're kind of feeling Malcolm X, or we're kind of feeling Stokely Carmichael, whoever, somebody else, and there were disagreements because we're not all in agreement with each other for every little thing. And it seems like they want to push, no, you got to be with this guy that was for peace. That's your guy, that will you know what I'm saying? Until we don't.
But that's the challenge, though. Like, trying to get everybody to agree is the challenge. It'll never happen, right? No, we didn't even all agree on Barack. You know what I mean? Now, a lot of us did. However, we're not a monolith. You know what I mean? We all have our different things that matter to us. A poor Black person is going to have different points of interest than somebody that's middle class or upper class. They're going to have different things that they're concerned about: education, the tax brackets, and all these different things are going to be different. So we're not going to all agree. But what we should all be able to agree on is the fact that we are marginalized. Is the fact that we don't have the same opportunities. And man, that's why people like Malcolm and Martin were so. They were like these blazing comets, man, who just burned out too fast because they were so unique and so bold. I've always asked myself, if I was back then, whose side would I be on? Right. You know what I mean? Because I see merits in both. I loved Martin because he was a Christian who wanted to use Christian ideals as his weapon. And I remember a reporter asked him. She said, they asked him that how do you use this passive resistance? What do you think that's going to accomplish? And he said, that this passive resistance is the only moral response that we have. And he's right. Biblically, as a Christian, the word teaches us that we're supposed to turn the other cheek. We're supposed to be forgiving, to forgive over and over, to be, and ultimately when you look at the results of what Martin was able to accomplish, it was Martin that got us into the White House, to sign the Civil Rights, bill. It wasn't Malcolm's approach. It was almost like that humble. It wasn't docile, but it was a different approach. It was we're going to boycott your businesses. We're going to impact you economically. When Malcolm was talking about, by any means necessary, and I'm talking about early Malcolm. I'm not talking about back to Mecca. That the pre-Mecca Malcolm, his way would have never worked. We don't have the artillery. We don't have the manpower. We don't have the know-how. It would have never worked. It would have been a violent destruction, because they outnumbered us in every way. Now Martin's, I know this ain't the whole point, but I'll just say Martin had a much wiser approach, which was, in order to obtain the freedom we're looking for, we're going to have to partner with our enemy, right? Everything that happened was because there were some good people on the other side willing to help us out. You know what I'm saying? So that was the bus boycott. That's Edmund Pettus Bridge. That's civil rights is voting. We always had to partner. We could not just strictly go against the construct and really make any headway. So, those type of leaders, man, we don't have those anymore. We don't have, man. Malcolm, I have yet to hear a leader as defiant as Malcolm was. Malcolm did not.
Yeah, I feel you. That's true in a way. But you have to understand the reason why you might not have some is because of Malcolm and Martin. I mean, they both got killed. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they just keep killing these brothers. They keep killing them.
The price is high.
And so, I mean, you got to look at brothers that are going, I'm sure that there are people like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and all of these people who started out to go that same route and might have gotten threatened or might have heard something and be like, okay, you know what? I don't want that. I don't need the same thing to happen again, because
death to us is not a problem for them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and like just like Malcolm and Martin, as soon as they began to start to dialogue, and as soon as Martin started to see that, hey, we're making headway, but this is not, we can't stay peaceful forever. And Malcolm started to realize, hey, this whole Muslim thing is about people of all races, not just black people. You know, after going to Mecca and doing all of that stuff and starting to realize, hey, there can be some unity amongst races. They were about to come together for a strong, I mean, it wasn't going to be no Batman and Robin. It was going to be Batman and Batman. You know what I'm saying? It was going to be on. And I think that, you know, that's something that was like, we can't let this happen. You know,
and with respect, no, go ahead.
Two things that have never happened and that I know of in history. There has never been a people that were trampled upon that got their freedom or got their just due without help from somebody who was in the upper echelon. That's number one. Two, it's also never happened peacefully. And it's not something that can happen peacefully in America because racism is at the very core of what America is. It's not something America started doing. It's something that built America. And
you're absolutely right. But at the same time, that doesn't, just because it can't happen peacefully doesn't mean that it has to happen. That doesn't mean that war is the very next option.
Well, it might not be war, but there's going to be bloodshed and there's going to be things. I mean, there are different types of people. Whenever, okay, let's take the George Floyd thing, for example. Okay. When George Floyd was obviously murdered, just insanely, there were people who wanted to march. There were people who wanted to riot. There were people who wanted to do all sorts of things. Cool. I like I said, we're not going to agree on everything, but I feel like we need all of these people. I feel like we need sometimes all of those things, because even the Christianity that we as Black people support here in America is whitewashed. And it was taught to us by our slave masters to keep us in control. So it's very strange that we have all Black people who are Christians have learned to turn the other cheek, but I don't see the other Christians turning the other cheek.
They're not, and that's
they're not even worshiping the same thing they taught us to worship. So it's a control tactic, and it's like, okay, it keeps us down, because if there's something that Black Christians believe in, it's Christianity. They've been successfully indoctrinated into this belief system.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, it's what it is. Man. So, I mean, and I'm not saying that everything about Christianity is wrong. I'm saying this version that these people brought to you is what we support. And that's why we're sort of paying into their system. So when you pay your tithes and offerings and stuff, and it goes all the way to the top of some conference office or some religious denomination that are run by people who don't look like you, are you paying into an organization that you don't believe in? Because the Klan is Christian. You know what I'm saying? The January 6th people, they was in there shouting Bible verses, and you know what I'm saying? The Crusaders were Christian. All of the wars, most of the wars that we know about are Christian. People who go to try to force democracy on other countries are Christian. So it's like, that's something I think that's holding a lot of us back. Now, yes, there was Christianity in Africa and all that stuff, but I don't think we have that version with us today. I think we're still following the slave masters version, and that's why we're still where we are. So,
all right.
Say that.
So, and I've heard that before, where people have said exactly what you said, where we sort of, following the slave master's version of Christianity. And my challenge to that is, what exactly? Now I'm going to change the word from Christianity to the Word of God, right? If we're followers of the Word of God, what in the Word
So
of
wait, you're considering the Bible
Bible.
to be the Word of God? Okay, all right. I'm just being clear.
Right, as a Christian, right? So as a Christian, if I'm looking at the Word of God, and with the Word of God as my map, my blueprint, my road to success, my road to an enriched Christian existence, if the Word of God is all of those things for me, I've yet to see anything in the Word of God that slants in the white man's favor Christianity. Now, we can all misinterpret the word. However, the word, just as the word, first of all, it takes place on the dark continent, Mother Earth, Mother Africa, right? If I'm European, I would make sure that it started in Europe somewhere. Man was created in this whitewashed religion. Man is created from dirt, right? Not white sand, not ash. Dirt. Dirt is brown. Most 3/4 of the word takes place in Africa. So it's like, if I'm going to whitewash this thing and I'm going to write a book that's going to prioritize the Europeans, then I would definitely change that. I would also make sure that Jesus doesn't have hair like wool and feet like bronze. I would also make sure that in the book of Revelation, when it says that God, when he returns, he's going to have, I think it said, it was some stone that it said that his feet were, but it was a dark stone. I'm going to make sure those things are not there, and I'm also going to say something about black people being, inferior, and the white man is God. And, there's none of that. None of that's there. What's happened is black people couldn't read as slaves when we were taken from our homeland and brought here.
No, we couldn't read English.
Correct. We couldn't read English.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But we couldn't read English. And so we had to learn, we had to learn English, and then we get the Bible, and we hear the white man preaching it. So we had to get it from somewhere.
Right.
However, I don't think that the natural ingredients of the Word of God actually benefit or promote, this European advantage. I don't see it in there anywhere.
Well, that's amazing that you say that, because with the same things you said are my opposite argument.
Okay.
I am trying to enslave and control a bunch of people. I will entice them with things that sound like they for them, because they still, even if you don't see a slant, how did you keep your foot on my neck with this Bible? You told me that this God, and you showed me pictures, even though it said that he had feet of hair of wool and feet of bronze and all this stuff. You showed me pictures of a white dude, and you didn't follow the religion you taught me. So you gave it to me as if it was something for me to have and something for me to love, and then you treated me opposite. So we're sitting here. Imagine.
So is the problem with the book, or with the book giver?
Because the problem can be with both, because the translations and things can be done however people want them to be done. All of these things from England, King James, all of these people, this stuff didn't start in America. It started over there and was transferred over here. And there are many things that aren't probably true translations. My problem is, and I'll tell you this, and it's just calling, and I know you're gonna bug out on this. Just calling the Bible the Word of God, to me, is arrogant. Okay, I'll explain to you why.
Talk to me.
My belief is that God is everywhere. Okay,
everywhere. Okay.
And that all over the world, God is the God in the Muslim religion as Allah, in the Yoruba religion, and Buddhist religion, and Hindu religion. That's all God. If you travel the world, you will see people worshiping in their religious ways to God and praising God, whether they're praising many gods or one God, whatever it is, and they're prospering in the same way that people are prospering over here. In some cases, maybe even better. Okay, so that means God is blessing them. God is still, because nobody else is blessing them. That's God.
He's letting their crops grow. He's letting people make money, their families, or whatever it is. That the same thing we do here. So I don't believe that it's a religion or the rules of a religion that are making God do this for people. It's what he does to people who diligently seek him, however they were taught to seek him. So God is a title. Had you said the Bible is the word of Jehovah or the word of Yahweh, then cool, because that's what the Muslims say. The Quran is the word of Allah, of the God that they, specifically worship. But Christians specifically say the Bible is the word of God, and it puts it over everything else. So when I meet Muslims and we talk about things and they say, "Are you Muslim?" and I say no, they don't bother to bring up the Quran with me because they know I'm not governed by that book. I'm not Muslim. But when somebody argues with you about Christianity and you're not a Christian, they still bring the Bible into it. And like, the Bible's your book. That's for Judaism and for Christianity. It doesn't matter for me if I'm not a Christian. You know what I'm saying? And so it makes it seem like it's for everyone. And the truth is, the American version of Christianity has held us down because it's tradition for us now, and we don't have a lot of tradition. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to go against what grandma taught you, or this, that, and the other, because it's one of the few things that has been passed down from the disconnection. Put it that way.
Sure.
And so it's an issue. And like I said, I'm not saying that Jesus is bad or this, that, and the other, anything. I'm saying we have to find, if you're going to be a Christian, a Black Christian, you have to find the truth, go to the source, because there's a reason why this is holding us back. There's a reason why you have Christian organizations that are devilish in their nature. I mean, when you look at the Klan, that's a problem, but they promote that they're Christian. Think about all of the witches that were killed by the Puritans and stuff, and they have you thinking that they were doing something good by killing people who they said were witches. So why are we more scared of the witches than we are the people that were killing them? You're killing people. And you said if they were witches, they would escape, and they never escaped. So that means they weren't witches. So, but those were the Christians. You know what I'm saying? And so it seems like we discount the negative and we hang on to the things that are positive, when God is the only positive in it. And I think God is in a lot more things than just Christianity. So I think that they've kept us in a bind with that, because it keeps us going back, and it keeps us, just doing things that would keep us in this cycle. And Black people can be whatever they want to be and still worship Jesus and God. They don't have to be the Christians that are connected to that. You don't have to be connected to that whole long lineage of craziness. You know what I'm saying? We can have our own. I think that's something that we have not established yet. We are scared to pull away. Even many of us who fight against white supremacy still have ways that we're thinking white is right. Mm-hmm. It shows in our actions. You know what I'm saying? It shows when I don't want to go to the Black store and support my brother, but I'll go to the white store and give him all my money. It's like, okay, this is better. Is it, or is it what we're used to? You know what I'm saying? Are we going to take some time to build and really do something? So, I mean, I think there's a lot that we need to do, because they're still coming down on us in ways that are negative. Even, let's say, we had this big deal, and I hate to even bring this up, but they had this big deal about the whole thing that happened at the Oscars, okay? And a lot of people were embarrassed because the Oscars were being produced by a Black man, and we had one of the biggest, silliest displays ever in our lives, know? But it seemed like because this was a black thing, it went on forever. There have been things that have happened with other people. I don't think that had it been who I can't even name, if it had been Matthew McConaughey and
Tom Hanks.
Yeah, Tom, right, that it would have been as big of a thing. You know what I'm saying? I think that we have taken on what white people have said we are.
Mhm.
We're animals, or we're 3/5 of a man, or whatever it is. And we promote this dynamic so well now that they don't even have to say it. They can just sit back and be like, go ahead, you know what to say. You know what I'm saying? You know what to put out there. You know how it is. You know how y'all do. And we have this whole thing. Now, I have a question for you, because this is one of the things I think is holding us back more than anything. I think we've been poisoned now to fight against each other. And black women and black men are at odds right now. That's ridiculous. Now, as you being a happily married man, I'm sure that you don't see the conflict as much as some people might see outside. But our world has seemed to become topsy-turvy now, where everything is black woman against black man. I look on Facebook and Instagram and all this stuff, I don't see white women fighting white men like that. I don't see Asian women fighting Asian men. I don't see Italian, I don't see anybody else fighting like we fight.
Mhm.
What is the impetus that has us at these odds at this point in history, when we need each other more now than ever for us to do this type of fight?
Well, I think it's a nuanced answer. You know, I think that it depends on who we're talking about. I think that you're right. When it comes to the fighting and the ratchetness, you know, that I see, I think a lot of those are your younger, your younger people. You know what I mean? Like the ones who are influenced by social media, the ones who are influenced by, housewives of West Memphis.
Everywhere.
I mean, you know what I mean? So it's like when you see that and you see how hood they can act, how hood the females can act, how it's almost like, that combined with the artists that we celebrate, Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion, these strippers who, so every bar is about sex and about, using their body to get where they're trying to go. And you don't need a man for this. And if you're going to do something with them, do it for the money, do it for the bag. And so it's creating this climate of using your body and, and kind of just basically finessing your way to the top without using your mind, without using your talent, without using your ability. And so it becomes about the dollar. It becomes about getting as much as you can, making sure you look as fly as possible. And if he ain't got no money, or if he ain't on this, if he ain't doing that, it's not really celebrated. But again, that's the imagery that's placed out there, man. You have a lot of women out there who love a good man, the one that comes home, the one who works a regular 9 to 5, who takes care of the kids, who, a lot more, I would guarantee more so the majority of women appreciate that. But it's the ones who are influenced by media, by television, by music, and then birds of a feather flock together, so they all clicking up. And guys as well, man, especially as black men, we are at a disadvantage because a lot of us don't have fathers in the home. A lot of us don't have men there who are demonstrating what it means to be a man, what it means to love one woman, what it means to love your children, what it means to get up and go to work every day, what it means to discipline, what it means to be structured. Most of us are not born with those tools. We don't have trust funds. We don't have money set aside for when we turn 18. There's nothing like that for us. So we have to learn along the way. And a lot of times, we're not mature enough to hold down a household. We're not mature enough to hold a job. We're not mature enough to be unselfish. Not until many, many years later into adulthood. You know what I mean? So it's really a perfect storm. You have these selfish mentalities and these undercooked minds of our men. And we're trying to get together and now we got a baby in the mix, and I'm not even in love with you, but now we got a child together, You know what I'm saying? So, and then the cycle continues. The cycle really continues. So most people aren't thinking like Michelle and Barack and Cliff and Claire Huxtable, to where it's like we just want this simple, work hard, put out this positive Black image. That's not the average mentality for somebody who is young and influenced by media. But it's more common than we see on television and on online and things like that. It's much more common.
Well, I think I agree with a lot of things you have to say, but I look at myself, you, the guys you hung out with when we were in Nashville, and I knew all your dads.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? There were and positive dads. You know what I'm saying? Dunlap, your dad,
Mm-hmm.
even Adrian. I met his dad. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's dad was around. You know what I'm saying? My dad was around. So it wasn't that we didn't have examples. It was that even though we had examples in our house, because I mean, there are a lot of them who do have positive role models as far as fathers are concerned, but is there still access for you to get what you need? Is it still a hard way to go for a lot of us to get where we need to be? Or did our fathers even get there? Did we watch our fathers get knocked down by something that was keeping them from getting where they were trying to be? You know what I'm saying? That is the kind of stuff that helps to mold a Black man into sometimes being afraid. Some of them are like, okay, well, my dad couldn't do that, and I don't see none of my friends doing that, so they don't go for it. And then there's some of us who say, no, I'm going for it regardless. I'm going to do that. I'm not going to be one of those people who's going to say, oh, the man is keeping me from this, that, and the other. I'm going to still go for mine. But there are some brothers who might have gotten caught up in legal troubles, whether they were guilty or not. Brothers who got stopped in education because they chose the sports route that they were pushed into, and then they got hurt, and now it's like, okay, what am I supposed to do? There are and I mean, a lot of people don't think that these options are out there, but there are a lot of things that are actually set up to be, for lack of a better term, weapons formed against you. So it's not just that there's not an example. Sometimes people make the wrong choices, but that one wrong choice takes them way down. Whereas if you were of another hue, that choice wouldn't take you way down. I grew up in the projects in the South Bronx, and I know for sure that when, my dad, my mom, my sister and brother, if we had gone to the welfare office to get, and this is hypothetical, if we had gone to the welfare office to get food stamps or whatever, we could have gotten a lot more money if we said my dad wasn't there than if we took him and we were the whole family together, because that's how it was for Black and Hispanics there. But if you were a Jewish family living in the projects or whatever, that wasn't a problem. You know what I'm saying? So there were ways to push the man out. And I think that they have found more ways now. If they can keep us arguing with our Black sisters and everything, then they can make sure that we stay at odds so that we don't keep producing these Black children that are going to grow up and try to do things that are going to be great. Even your what's his name, Kevin Samuels. This guy was outrageous. Okay, but he wasn't always wrong. You know what I mean? He had some outrageous things to say. I've only heard a few things he had to say, and sometimes I was like, "Oh my goodness, dude, you
right."
That was kind of rough right there." But there were some things that he said, and I was like, okay. So my problem with him was not his points. My problem with him was they allowed him to be just as ratchet as the people who were calling in, or the people who he was talking about, what he was talking about, to gain notoriety and to gain, to be that strong against people, so that you're not just educating them now, you're embarrassing them and you're making them feel bad. And that's why people are coming to see it, so they can laugh and they can enjoy, not to learn or anything like that. There are things that we need both sides to change. I think that Black women and Black men both need a lot of education and a lot of things to bring us back together to save our race. But it's definitely never going to happen with that kind of show. I mean, it's just not the way to do it.
Right,
It's not gonna help anybody. We got to learn how to come together. I see women who have absolutely nothing, and they want a man with everything. And I'm like, my only question is, what would make a man like that talk to you if you have nothing? You have to understand there's an attraction for people who have these things. I can't go talk to some woman who makes $500,000 a year, and I'm saying to her, well, I haven't graduated from high school, and I don't really have a job, but I just do this, that, and the other. She's gonna be like, what kind of conversations are we gonna have? What are we gonna talk about? You haven't gone to school, you haven't done this, and all these things I've done. There's no connection. And it seems like, we've gotten to this point now where everybody just wants what they want, and they have their own truth, and everybody's truth is legitimate. And that's super scary. I don't know where we're supposed to go from there, So what we're trying to figure out is, how do we promote the positivity of our Black men? What would you say is give me one or two ways that you think we can start to dispel the myths and actually promote the positivity of what we do and who we are in society?
Man, I think that we're on the right track now. I think that there's a lot of positive Black role models out there. You don't have to really be a huge celebrity to appreciate some of the things these guys are doing on television and social media. It's I just think that it's a lot more positivity out there, but we just have to continue people to refuse to allow ourselves to be portrayed a certain way. You know what I mean? Like, if we could find a way to stay out of the news for silly things, you know what I mean? We could find a way to stop, making ourselves look ignorant, for some of the crimes and things that are being committed, man. It's just perpetuating that stereotype. So what we could do is just be intentional about the come up. That's one of the things I loved about the Garvey movement. It was about not just Marcus Garvey. I like what he said, but it's like, listen, if you guys don't want to, we'll go back to our own country and build our own utopian society, and we're gonna thrive because our people are really good at assimilating. Like we can, in any genre that we're placed in, any role we're placed in, we thrive. Whether it's athletics, whether it's in the boardroom, in the classroom, whether it's music, it doesn't matter. We have people who exceed and supersede everybody, because I just think that we're really good at assimilating, and I think that that's intimidating, and so the best thing you can do is just keep your foot on that, you know what I mean? But we just have to insist on allowing ourselves to be great and refusing anything less. That's one thing I liked about, I think it was 1964, when the NFL was getting ready to have their All-Star game, what would be like, I guess, like the Pro Bowl now. They refused to go, right? The NFL players refused to show up to the Pro Bowl because of inequality. They were going to shut the whole Pro Bowl down unless they made some changes. And I think that it's when we recognize our economic impact, when we appreciate it, when we demand excellence and nothing less. If Black people boycotted the NFL, and I'm talking about the players included, you don't think we would have a Black head coach on every team? You don't think we would have a Black GM? You know what I'm saying? I mean,
So basically what you're talking about is sacrifice
for the greater good.
Yeah, because nobody wants to sacrifice, because we have become, even those of us who might still think we're poor, are way richer than we think.
Absolutely.
And we don't want to give up anything to go back to where we came from. I definitely am not trying to go back to the projects in the South Bronx, or even feel like I'm there at all. You know what I'm saying? And so we've become so comfortable that it's hard to give it up for something for the race. Because and we've been taught, this is so crazy, we've been taught that we can't trust each other. So it's like, well, why would I give this up? They just gonna play me. They're just gonna do this, that, and the other. You know what I'm saying? Somebody's gonna mess it up, and so nobody wants to sacrifice. And you're really right. There were times back then when those guys knew, like James Brown said, I'd rather die on my feet than keep living on my knees, man. You know what I'm saying? It's a problem, but we're so comfortable now that even in the racism that we're living in, there's a comfort. There's a joy in it almost because it's comfortable now. It's like, okay, yeah, they called me the N-word, or they did this and other, they beat this black dude down, but I'm still making my money. You know, I'm good.
I can still eat in that restaurant. You know, I can still stay at that hotel. You know what I mean? Right, but it's not moving the needle. You know, and that's what makes people like Colin Kaepernick so unique. You know, that's what made people like Muhammad Ali so unique, is that they sacrificed at the height, at the epitome of, you know, Jim Brown. You know, this is at the height of their powers. They chose to step away to make a statement, and I think that. And if you look at those people now to this day, their impact is far greater. There's been hundreds of boxers, there's been hundreds of NFL quarterbacks that have come and gone, but we still know Ali, we still know Kaepernick. Why? Because they chose to step away and make a statement, and it's reverberated. You know what I mean? Now imagine if we had 100 Alis and 100 Kaepernick, like, right? But we always have the other side of us who are willing to hand over the heart, stand for the national anthem, who are willing to go fight in Vietnam. We undo, right, everything that they're fighting for. And so that's what sets us back. So it's hard to get us to move as that fist, man. And so until that happens, you know, we're gonna always be fighting against each other, man. That's what I love about the Indian people will come over here and buy every gas station in your neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Or the Asians will come and get every hair and nail salon in your neighborhood because they're like that. They're like that. You know, and you know, and we could be like that. We could be like that. We could start repairing our credit scores and get up to a 720 and start buying property and all of these kind. But we have this mentality that it'll never happen for us. We're not smart enough. We didn't go to school. We don't have enough role models, and so we're quicker to feel and think from a defeated mentality, and instead of how can we unify, you know. So there's pockets of communities and organizations that are doing it, but on a mass level, until we all have this mentality that I am good enough, I am smart enough, I am going to partner, I am going to support Black business, I am going to make sure that we're represented. Until everybody thinks that way, man, we're going to be this fragmented, go along to get along, happy for any crumb that falls off the table type of people.
Well, you are definitely right about that. And I would only add one other thing to what you said, is that we have fallen in love with the ghetto. And that is one of the worst things, because when I was young, on TV, the only ghetto thing I really saw was Good Times. And there was no good times on that show. If they did have a good time, a bad time was right behind it. You know, when what's his name? Keith came and he's supposed to be this football star, then he gonna break his leg. You know what I'm saying? It's just never gonna happen for them. And now the ghetto is on TV, but it's the bomb. You know what I'm saying? It's so bad that there are kids who really think that ghetto and Black are synonymous. And they are growing up thinking, oh, this is how I'm supposed to be. This is not just a predicament that I'm in. I'm Black, so I'm this. And I'm like, no, that's not what this is about. You know, and so there are so many kids now, and this is something I never thought I would see. Entitled poor kids. First thing I've ever seen in my life. Because what are you entitled about? What is it that we owe you? You know what I'm saying? You don't have anything. And you know, I see kids who have the iPhone 13, and then I call home and their mom's phone is off, but their phone is on. You know what I'm saying? Our mom doesn't have a cell phone. Oh, I don't have a phone. She has what? You know, they got the best sneakers and this and the other, but they don't have any pencils or paper to do their work. I mean, because it's not a priority. Everything has been given to them to the point where there's nothing really to work for. And that is really going to pull us down because we have to depend on them. We're getting old. And the fact that we have to depend on kids who are entitled now, for the most part, I'm not saying all of them are, but there's a lot of entitlement. I don't know what's going to happen. You know, you got your two kids who will probably say, hey, man, my dad was pretty cool. I'm going to look out for him, you know. But today I had a girl who just graduated, and I said, what you going to do? She said, I'm going to become an anesthesiologist. And I said, well, if I go in the hospital and I see you, tell them to push me out. Because you know, I don't know. I don't know if you can do it, because did you do what you're supposed to do in here? I'm not sure. I don't know if I want to. I don't want to see that, because are you going to do it right? Are you still going to be on your phone while you putting the needle in me? Or what are you doing? So it's kind of scary, and I think that I think you're right though. There's a lot that we need to do. I want this show to become something that I can start to go around to neighborhoods and to states and to actually start doing something in neighborhoods, educating the young people on what our responsibility is. I think we've left that out this time, and I think it's our fault, you know, that we've left out the responsibility that everybody has to our people. And so we'll definitely stay in touch with you. And
yeah, for sure, man.
West Coast now.
Yeah, and I love what you're doing. I think that this is really good, man. It's a good platform, good opportunity to discuss some of these things, and you know, and educate our people, you know, and give them the tools that they need to be successful, you know. Otherwise, it's cyclical, man. It's going to continue to go on, you know, until we're able to break some of these cycles, you know. So yeah, man, keep this up, man. I love it. Great dialogue.
Well, listen, tell the people, if I don't know how you're doing right now with your speaking or your performing and stuff, but if you want people to get in touch with you, this is your time, and let them know how they can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. Just go to my on my IG. It's just official Andale, Andale. Just drop me a DM. Always happy to, you know, travel and like I said, I'm working on new content, finishing up this latest mixtape project that I'm putting out, and so I'm super excited about it. And you know, man, still just trying to make an impact, have some fun at the same time. So yeah, man.
That's good. Well, you still look young, so you can get away with it for a while. So keep it up.
I got a little while longer. That's right. There you go.
That's good. Well, listen, man. Thanks a lot for coming out, man. We'll definitely get back in touch with you and see how y'all doing out there on the West.
No doubt, man. That's right. All right, bro. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate you. Take it easy.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much, all of you, for coming to the show today, checking us out. I know we've been gone for a long time. As I posted, first my computer had a virus, and that took a while to get rid of, and it was corrupted and all kind of problems. And then after that, I caught a virus, the COVID virus. Yes, it finally got me, and I was down for a little while. And then even afterwards, into some serious brain fog that I had never experienced before. But I'm back now, thank God, and we're back. Come Together, we'll be back, and every week, and we'll be bringing you positive Black men and exposing all of the just the inequalities and trying to find out how we can make things work out positively for our men. All right. Thanks for coming out, and I'm hoping to see you next week.